Hello and welcome to Learn, Do, Become Radio. This is April Perry, and today I'm taking you inside a week that I had of somewhat painful therapy to help me with some emotions and beliefs and things that were at the root of my stress. I'm feeling so much better now, and I want to take you through that, and I hope that today's episode will be really helpful for you. If you're brand new to Learn, Do, Become, we help people who are drowning in the details of life to create simple systems so they can do what matters most. And a lot of times people come to me because they want to get organized. And so they just want to learn how to create the Step Command Central, organize their mind and their space. But what I found as I've worked with literally hundreds of thousands of people over the past 15 years online is that it's rarely the stuff that's actually the problem. The stuff is usually a symptom. And today we're going to dive deep. And in my heart, I am just hopeful that I will be able to cover this adequately. A lot has transformed for me. I've gone from feeling tense most of the time to feeling calm most of the time. And I'm making huge changes in my life. And I am recording today for you. And maybe you already have a therapist you're working with, and that's awesome. Maybe you can't afford a therapist, or maybe you're afraid and you don't even know what you would say, and maybe you don't even know that there's hope for where you are right now. But if right now you're kind of on the edge, or maybe you're over the edge, and you feel like you're just stressed and scared and overwhelmed, and you don't know what to do with your brain, then today's podcast is for you. And I already know it's not going to be perfect, and I'm okay with that. I'm actually totally okay with that. But as a special bonus, we're having our first ever guest come into our Rise membership in March, and it is my coach / therapist, Mike Christensen. So we're actually going to bring the therapy to you if you want to come into a Rise in March. Okay, so I'm going to dive in, but I just want you to know I put a lot of my heart into what I'm about to share today, because I genuinely want to help you get out of that overwhelm. I know how it feels. I know how some of it feels. Yours may be way harder than mine. And so I'm just going to share from my own perspective what was hard for me and how I got through it. And then I'm hopeful you can apply at least some of that to help you feel better and calmer and happier and more hopeful. Okay, let's dive in. So I shared back in, I think like October, November, kind of some heart-to-heart podcasts, and opened up about some of my worries. One of my podcasts was about 7 rules I need to replace, because I started recognizing I was trying to do everything everyone wanted me to do, and I needed to change my own, beliefs and rules in order to get to the root of it. But really, in a nutshell, I mean, nothing's terribly wrong here. I'm in a safe place. I have so many happy things going on. I've got a wonderful husband and family and neighbors, and it's more than I can ask for. But I was feeling worried about some things. Anyone who lives with people or interacts with people, you get it. And I was stuck in a couple of key areas of my life. I was emotionally spread thin and physically weak, particularly when it came to balancing the self-care and family needs and community service and the details here at Learn, Do, Become. Now, I thought that the problem was, the circumstances, like it was other people, or it was the challenges in front of me. So I kind of put myself, inadvertently into a victim role. So it's just like someone who looks at their messy room and says, oh, the problem is people give me all this stuff. Or the problem is it's just the clutter. The clutter is the problem. And so when we try to point to an external, right, the external locus of control, you may have remembered that from a psychology class back in high school or something like that. That's what I was doing, and I didn't realize it. I didn't see that there was any way the problem could be me, because I was doing the best I could. And that might be something you're experiencing right now, where you're like, well, I'm just doing the best I can. I'm doing everything I'm asked to do. But, okay, we're going to go deeper, because I found out the problem actually was me. It was the beliefs I had and the rules I set for myself, which I got to the bottom of that. And I'm going to share how that happened. And the thing is, what was happening is, as I was stressed, I thought all these other people were the problem. I couldn't, but I expected myself to please everyone and immediately solve every challenge. And then my body went into a pretty intense stress response. Now for you, you might get migraine headaches, or you might turn to addictive behavior or something like that. For me, I won't share all the details, but I had lots of rashes. Like my body just breaks out in rashes. Fatigue. I was having middle of the night worries, waking up kind of panicked. I had near constant tension in my body, and I didn't even know it, but my default was tense. It was like I was on guard for most of each day, and I was uptight, and I was so worried that if I slowed down, I would just let everybody down. And so my schedule was packed, and I had to stop exercising in order to conserve my energy, and I was moving at a pace that was totally unsustainable. Now that pace, that happened like from mid-September to end of October. And then my body was just done. And I feel like it was, yeah, that's when I realized I had to make some changes. So my health struggles really went from mid-September until about 3 weeks ago. And that's when I consider myself healed from that. And I'm feeling so much relief. And since I spent months trying to figure it out, I'm hopeful what I share today can help you get results faster. I'm going to just take you in to show you what happened. And I really want to be clear, yes, everything wasn't terrible. There were lots of really happy moments in the middle of that. So if any of my friends are listening and they're thinking, well, I saw you during those months. There was a fun family vacation and exciting conferences and meaningful projects, plenty of beautiful days. It's not like I was just, this basket case. But behind the scenes, my body was dragging. And while I was in the middle of it, I just couldn't figure out what was wrong. So I just tried to put on, a smile and keep going. And, not people couldn't see my rashes. It was like my stomach and my arms and my shin. And like I could just keep it covered. And I think that's something just important to point out, because for you right now, you're just listening to the podcast, nobody's watching you or hearing you, but I want you to just ask yourself, are there some stress responses that you can keep covered up that no one else knows about? Because if you're coping in a way that, no one's aware, it's just your coping strategy. I don't want you to need a coping strategy, like now I don't have the rashes. I don't have to worry someone's going to see me. And you may also think your life is fine right now, or even great, but just ask yourself, am I secretly living in fight or flight right now? And do I feel like any second I'm just going to tip over the edge? Because if you do feel that way, I don't believe that's how we have to live. And I want to encourage you to take those feelings seriously and really get to the root of what's going on and get help if needed, because it's just not worth it to live like that. I don't think so. I think it's possible to still do the good we need to do and not have to live like that. So right now, genuinely, I feel calm and relaxed and happy. And really getting to this point wasn't as hard as I thought it would be, because before I kept thinking, oh, I'm sure it'll get better soon. It's just a busy phase of life. But it was really hurting me. And it was just going to get worse. Like if I didn't take care of those issues and beliefs and get to the root of it, if I hadn't done that this past, quarter, it just would have gotten worse. The more my family grew, the more Learn to Become grew, the older I got, it was just going to get worse. And so, okay, I'm going to keep going, but I hope that this can help at least point you in a good, helpful direction. Okay, so let's talk about my week of somewhat painful therapy. A few years ago, I met with a team CBT therapist. So that's a cognitive behavioral therapy. That's what CBT is. And then the team method was created by Dr. David Burns. And I started reading his books, I think 10 years ago. I've been listening to all his podcasts and reading his books, and I'm very familiar with it. But I met with an actual team CBT therapist, Mike Christensen, the one I'm telling you about. And I talked about it in my podcast about emotional decluttering. So that was my first session. You can go back and listen to that. And during that point, I mainly wanted to talk through some mindset issues that were weighing me down at the time. And the session was incredibly helpful. In fact, I didn't even feel like I needed a follow-up because the therapy was so successful. So this was, I think, 3 or 4 years ago. However, during this recent challenge I've been talking about, when I couldn't get my rashes to go away and I couldn't calm my nervous system, the best thing I could think of was to meet with my coach again. And I had one appointment on a Monday in early December, and then we booked another one for Friday of that same week. And then between the two appointments, I probably spent 10 hours doing my homework, and I'm going to outline it for you as simply and as clearly as I can here. So if you're wondering, well, what's this team CBT? So the team part stands for testing, empathy, agenda setting, and methods. It's this 4-part process of the cognitive behavioral therapy. And I think the reason I love it so much is because it's just kind of step by step. It's not like what you see in the movies or on TV shows when someone walks into a therapist's office and then they just sit there and just talk for a long time and then they really have no resolution. It's not like that. It's actually like formulated. There's this mood log we work through. It's step by step. Okay, here's your homework. And it's so predictable that it just gives me so much hope that I can maintain it on my own. And ever since I completed that week of therapy, I've done multiple additional mood logs and I just know how to do it now. And I may need a little tune up in the future, and that's totally great, but it's just been amazing. Okay, so for the testing part, I did a mood log prior to my therapy session. If you're wondering what a mood log is, I know they do have some online. I want to be careful with how I talk about all of Dr. Burns' tools because they're, his copyrighted tools, and I want to be really respectful of that. But if you go to feelinggood.com, he talks about all of those things and all of his books. I'll link them on the show notes page, but I know for sure there's a mood log in the book When Panic Attacks, and that's where I first learned how to do it. So basically, you pick a specific moment in time when you were suffering, and then you identify which feelings you're having at the time. And they have a list, like, oh, are you anxious? Are you lonely? Are you guilty? Are you frustrated, angry? Right? They have all these little things. So you also then, next to that list, you write how much you feel them. Is it a 0 to 100%? And then what thoughts you're having that cause you to feel those feelings. And so you start writing down, like, okay, in that moment, what were you thinking? So at first, I basically let, my coach know I was hiring him to help me stop having rashes. And I explained, I was feeling mostly anxious and frustrated. Now, during the empathy part, he did a lot of listening. And I didn't realize how many thoughts I had inside my head that didn't have a place to go. And this is one of the main reasons I appreciate therapists, because sometimes we just need to talk. And there's so many things where I think, you know what, I could talk and talk and talk about this. It's not going to change anything. It might just hurt people's feelings if I tell them how I'm really feeling. So I'm just going to hold it in. That's really good. That's really helpful. But as he listened, he didn't try to fix me right away. Instead, he just really validated my feelings and emphasized the good in me that was causing those feelings. So as I'm explaining and I'm doing this and here's why I'm frustrated, he's just like, oh yeah, I totally get it. And asking more questions and just listening. And that was just great at first. So I talked so much. But then we started a fresh mood log. So I actually have the mood log in front of me. But he asked me to really think about one moment when the anxiety was the worst. And I don't want to share all the details of it, but it was... well, okay, maybe I'll just share some of it because you might just want to know. So I was at this conference and I was sitting in the front row with Eric, and there was a speaker at the conference who, like, I did not personally resonate with the speaker. And in fact, I was kind of frustrated with what the speaker was saying because I felt like that person was going to be hurting people with what they were teaching. And I couldn't leave, or I could have left, but I didn't because I felt socially obligated to stay. And so I reached down and I just, this is more embarrassing to say than I thought. I had a rash on my shin and I just scratched my rash, the whole time I listened. And I was because I didn't know what else to do. Anyway, Eric and I got back to our hotel room that night and I pulled up my pant leg and there was just blood just dripping down my shin because I just scratched so much that... Anyway, so I showed him my shin and he's like, oh my gosh, what is going on? And then I just felt so embarrassed. I don't know. anyway, I couldn't even figure it out. I'm just like sitting there bleeding. And I don't know if this sounds crazy to you. Anyway, I figured it all out, so I'm fine sharing it now. It was so bad. And so anyway, I went through that mood log and explained, okay, well, here's why I was upset. Here's how I was feeling. I was really sad. I was anxious, all this stuff. So we wrote down what feelings I was having at the time, and I won't read all of these, but it was things like, no one's really speaking to me, like the work I'm trying to do and learn to become. No one's really speaking to me. People don't share my values. And I was like all or nothing thinking, and I'll go into all that in a second. But I just felt like I need to protect people, and there's all these voices that just want to hurt people, and I had all these things like, in order to live this worst one, this is bad. I wrote, I have to live in hell to do my purpose. Like, that's terrible. But I had all these beliefs, like, if I want to serve and help people, I just have to put myself in these awful situations that I hate, anyway, it was bad. So I had like 4 pages of things I wrote down. Okay. So now I'm looking at the mood log and I'm trying to figure out what I wrote. So let me go back. Okay. So as we looked at that, then we did the best thing, which is called the positive reframe. This is where we looked at each thought I was having, and I almost feel like I should go back and delete that part because I'm like embarrassed, but okay, I've learned in the past, I just don't delete it. I just say, hey, if you will give me grace, then I'll share things. Okay. Okay. All right. We're just going to keep going. Okay. So with the positive reframe, we looked at each thought and we asked, what does this thought show that is awesome about me? Now, I know it feels so weird at first because when you're feeling anxious or angry or lonely, you don't feel awesome. I didn't feel awesome at all as I was sharing. But we came up with 20 to 30 different pieces of evidence that showed how my negative thoughts and feelings showed that I care about people. I want to show up for others. I want to protect people from being manipulated. I'm willing to serve and sacrifice my own well-being to be helpful, etc. And so that was really good. So as we looked at the positive reframe, then that's when they do the agenda setting and says, okay, well, given all the good things that this represents about you, why would you want to let go of that? So let's just help. Would you want to maybe just dial it down, right? So instead of feeling so upset, what if we just dialed it down where you could still honor your values, but you don't have to feel upset? And so before I leave this mood log, I just want to explain, I got to the point as I went through this positive reframe and how I could look at things differently, that actually it wasn't this person's fault. I mean, this person didn't do anything to me. They have a different perspective on life. Well, great. So do I. We all have different perspectives on life. I didn't have to stay there if I didn't want to. I stayed because I felt socially obligated, and that went to some of my deeper core beliefs, which we'll talk about in a minute. But it helped me to see that, yes, I had valid reasons for feeling that way, but there was nothing wrong with other people sharing their perspectives. The speaker on the stage didn't make my leg bleed. It's my beliefs and what I made it mean that caused me to do that, right? So as I've learned this process, it's helped me so much to not put blame on other people, not to put blame on myself. And so I just want to clarify that, because otherwise it sounds like, oh my goodness, someone was terrible to you. And really they weren't. It's just the way I was looking at it and the way I was thinking about it. Okay, so then I was given my homework, and I actually have my homework list right here where it says complete the positive reframes with all the emotions, apply the magic dial on the mood log, and he's like, and now I want you noticing when your rashes, start to itch, and identify the emotion in the moment and apply that magic dial. Learn to tone it down. And then he gave me this list of methods, and that's where they have things like the double standard technique, the what if technique. They have all these methods, and he gave me this list. And he's like, then do your self-defeating belief questionnaire. And anyway, so those are like my homework assignments. Okay, so when I left the call on Monday, I assumed the homework would take me an hour. Like, I felt better, but I still needed to process things. And we plan to meet again Friday. But what happened over the next few days was some of the hardest emotional work that I've ever done. And because I needed some quiet, uninterrupted time to think, and I wasn't able to sleep well because of all of the emotions inside me, I actually started working in the basement in the middle of the night between 2 and 4 a.m. So I took my laptop downstairs and I did my homework the first night. But what was interesting is once I solved the feelings around the initial event that had upset me, I went through all of it and picturing myself, hearing the speaker. And by the time I got to the end of it, it didn't have any, power anymore. It was like, oh yeah, it was an event. It wasn't a big of a deal. And I was able to really see it clearly. But after I got to the end of that, I realized that wasn't really the problem. So I started another mood log. I have them all open here in front of me. I started another mood log and I looked at another problem I was facing that was a little bit deeper. And I went through that and I wrote down the emotions and the thoughts and I did the positive reframe and identified all the distortions. There's that list online. If you Google cognitive distortions, David Burns, you can see it'll be like all or nothing thinking, labeling, other blame, self-blame, magnification, fortune telling, mind reading, all these things. So I learned the distortions. I really want you to learn those because it helps you see your thoughts. But I went through all the new thoughts and everything, and I did this for that other mood log. And then I cried hard during the whole process because as I started asking myself, what are the thoughts that are causing this? I started to recognize I was feeling really angry and I felt like there was so much I was carrying alone. And I had all of these really frustrated feelings that I had never articulated because I just felt like it just won't help to articulate it. So I cried hard. It was kind of bad. And then I finished that mood log, and the next night I realized there was an even deeper issue, and I started another one. I don't want to read. Even just preparing for the session, I started feeling afraid to even open up about what I was thinking because I felt like I was just a bad person or something for thinking those things. And so each night, it's like Monday night, Tuesday night, Wednesday night, Thursday night. Okay, so 4 nights. I went deeper and deeper, and it was really hard to face it, but it was very therapeutic to get it out. And then I started having more confidence in myself that, okay, once I get it out and I do the reframe and I write down the replacing thought and I take myself through this, I could actually feel so much better. And the tears I had, yes, so they were somewhat shameful, but they were also tears of relief because as I did these positive reframes and all that, it helped me see that whenever I blame myself or blame someone else or have all or nothing thinking, I do feel real pain, but it's distorted pain. And that was a shift for me. Because the pain that you're feeling right now, there's good reasons why you're holding on to it. Really good reasons. It's your values. It's, keeping yourself safe. It's all these things. But recognizing that if it's causing you to shut down or causing your body to break out in rashes or to get these migraine headaches or whatever it is, that most likely it's distorted. And once you learn to fix the distortions, it doesn't make the issue go away, but it changes the way you look at it. So I didn't know how freeing it would be. And it's that process, though, that really gives me hope, because whenever I'm struggling, I know that shows something really good about me and my values. But also, I know the pain that goes along with it doesn't have to be permanent. Okay, the other tool that was way more powerful than I expected was the self-defeating beliefs quiz. Now, in the book Feeling Good, I know they have a list of all the self-defeating beliefs. And again, I'm trying to be respectful of Dr. Burns' copyright and the therapist tools and things like that. There's a toolbox, though. I think you can buy it online. I think anybody can buy it. So anyway, I want to be respectful of that, but I'll just share some examples. So SDB, Self-Defeating Beliefs quiz, has 23 of these beliefs with 4 questions under each one. And I went through and took the quiz, and just taking the quiz was an eye-opener. And I'll give an example of one where I got a perfect score, meaning not in a great way. I got 100%, self-defeating. Okay, so it's called Magical Thinking. And then it has these 4 questions and says, how much do you relate to the following 0 to 4? So here are the questions or the statements under Magical Thinking. My worry protects me and those I love. If I'm not anxious, something bad could happen. It is important I worry so things work out okay. And my worry, anxiety, and or concern prevents bad things from happening. So as I'm reading these now, I don't believe them at all. In fact, part of my homework was to do a mood log for each of my self-defeating beliefs. Take any of those sentences I just said, do a positive reframe, identify the distortions, create a new way to think about each one. So I did that as part of my homework. But at the time, I had a 4 on every single part, believing my worry protects people and it prevents bad things from happening. And it's like my worry, that's my superpower. So imagine if you think your worry is the shield that's protecting everybody and everything you love. Think what that does to you, right? So it really was an eye-opener, and I realized how much I struggle with things like people-pleasing and emotional perfectionism and anger phobia. Oh man. And the thing is, until I took the quiz, I couldn't see that there was another option. So I just kept thinking, are there really people who don't believe these things? It was like a light turned on. And as I'm getting these 4s on all of these beliefs, I'm just thinking, okay, I thought this was my power, and now I'm seeing this as a self-defeating belief. So it was quite humbling, I will say. Now, Eric was an amazing support through this whole thing. Although I attended the online sessions and did the homework on my own, Eric was my champion through the whole thing. And each morning he would listen as I summarized my middle of the night homework sessions. And I usually needed to take long naps during the day because I was so tired from all of the nighttime, processing. And then I think the most beautiful part was as I opened up and told him about the thoughts and feelings I'd been discovering, he really listened and encouraged me, and it made such a difference, because a lot of the things I was worried about, I think I was afraid to even talk to him about them because I didn't want to disappoint him, or I just didn't want him to worry about me, And so as I started opening up and saying, hey, I realized this about myself, it strengthened our relationship, because then he could understand, because otherwise he would just watch me with all these rashes and he'd feel so bad and he didn't know what to do. And then once I started explaining what was causing them, he was like, oh, okay, all right, okay, this is good. Keep going. Let's get to the bottom of this. Let's figure it out, because once he kept telling me, once I know what you're thinking, what you're going through, then I can help you more. But I think it was probably really hard for him because he sees himself and he is like my protector. He's always watching out for me. And then when he sees me struggling and he feels pretty helpless, it's just, that's not good for him either. So I feel like overall this was so good for our marriage. And anyway, it's literally been nothing but positive. Okay, let's keep going. So when I showed up for my Friday therapy session, I really did feel like a different person. I had all my mood logs to show as my completed homework. Not that I was trying to be the star student or anything, but I just said, you know what? I didn't just do one mood log. I have like 5 mood logs here and all my homework. Anyway, so we got into the session, and what was interesting is that during that session, I didn't need to just talk, and I don't even think I even cried. I just wanted to dive in and ask for help on some of the specific thoughts that I couldn't counteract on my own, because there were some where I didn't know how to look at it. I didn't know there was a solution. I just didn't know what to do. And this is where my coach he was just shining because he brought out all these tools and started showing me these tools that I didn't even know existed. And I started learning how to use them. And so our Friday session was my coach teaching me how to use tools instead of me just crying and talking, you know? And so, for example, one of the tools taught me how to look forward to arguments. Okay, this, because I had anger phobia, I would never argue with anyone. So, this has been something my whole life. And okay, some people are like, I had no problem arguing. Okay, but I did. And so, anytime someone had an opinion that was a strong opinion, I just wouldn't fight it. And that's caused a lot of problems throughout my life because I would just kind of bury things and I would just let people have their way. And then I would just stop having a relationship with them because I couldn't take it. And so Mike, I call him Mike, Mike Christensen, anyway, my coach, he said, okay, so you have anger phobia. I want to show you how you could actually have an argument that leaves the other person feeling better and articulates what you're feeling. So you'll actually look forward to having an argument. You know, if the opportunity comes up where you disagree, you'll look forward to disagreeing. And I thought, there is no way I'm ever going to look forward to it. I feel like I'm walking on eggshells all the time. I feel like I'm constantly trying to keep people from being mad at me, you know? And so let me just tell you one of the things that he taught me. Okay, because I had to write this down and I've been practicing it. But one of the examples is, let's say someone gets upset and typically I would just, go away. So here's what I learned how to say. This is hard for me to say because I care about you so much and I can see how hard you're working at this specific situation and whatever's there. But I'm starting to feel a bit angry, and because I want to be close to you, I think it's important for me to share my feelings, and I genuinely want to understand your perspective more fully. So can we just discuss this further? Could you let me know if there's something I'm not seeing yet? Okay, I don't know if that exact language would work for you, but just having words and phrases to articulate what I feel has been so helpful, especially that part saying, it's hard for me to say, but I'm feeling angry. Just that phrase, I've used that twice and it's like magic. So now I don't feel afraid of arguments because I can articulate things, but I've also changed my deeper beliefs. Like, under the anger phobia one, like it's not even, I forget the way I used to phrase it, but I had this belief where basically like nobody can be mad at me. It's unbearable for someone to be mad at me. That was one of my core beliefs. So you can imagine how that feels, right? If that's your core belief. Anyway, it's been a game changer. So, all right, I think I'm done with the podcast. And you know what? At the risk of sounding like a crazy person, I just feel like we're all a little crazy. All of us have things in our minds and hearts that have either been wired from when we were young, or maybe genetically we have some predispositions, or maybe over the course of our lives we've learned how to protect ourselves and we learned, coping strategies. So I'm sharing this in the hopes that you will be able to look at what's your issue. How are you feeling right now? What's something that's upsetting you? What are you carrying? And how do we get to the root of these self-defeating beliefs so that we don't have to then struggle so much? Okay, so I'm going to close up, but I just want to summarize 3 lessons that I learned. Number 1, the struggles in our lives represent the good in us. So there's no shame. Number 2, there's nothing wrong with us. We've simply created beliefs that we think will keep us safe. And number 3, if we're willing to open our hearts and do the work, we can find relief. So, okay, if you have comments, sometimes I'm like, why do I open myself up for comments? I don't know. You want to share things that have been helpful for you, things that maybe questions that you have that I don't know if I can answer all of them, but I'm happy to try to help. or if you want to come hear Mike Christensen as our guest speaker, he's going to take us all through a mood log. He's coming into our Arise membership in March. Our live class is going to be March 16th, 2023. I seriously can't wait. I've been helping prep things and I'm so excited. So come to that. Also on our show notes page, learndobecome.com/episode 183. We have related links to some of the podcasts I talked about before, plus Dr. Burns' books. And I'm just sending a huge hug. I hope this was helpful. And I hope I didn't give not enough information that you feel like this just made it worse. That sometimes I feel like, I need more. But these books, honestly, and if you can't afford the books, then go to your library and have them either order them or get them from an interlibrary loan, or maybe they'll have them already. But the ones Feeling Good, Feeling Great, When Panic Attacks, those are the top 3 that I've loved. There's also Feeling Good Together. That's great for relationships. Anyway, there's so many good books out there. So books obviously can be a resource for anybody. And if you want to work with your own team CBT therapist, there's a website called feelinggoodinstitute.com. I'll link that on the show notes page as well. But you can find a therapist in your area or someone who can work with you. So, okay, lots of options. But if you come into Arise, we can all hang out and talk together. And I just want to send my love. Thank you for being here. Thank you for creating a space where I feel safe enough to talk about all these embarrassing things. And, or I guess not embarrassing, all these human things. And thank you for just being amazing. And I am just sending all my love. All right. Have a great week. We'll see you soon at learndobecome.com.